everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Iris, the compliance consultant from GACC Registration Service Organization. So, as we can know, a few months ago, GACC has issued the new regulations on import and export foods, the Degree 248 and the Degree 249. So today, I shall be speaking about the interpretation of the new regulation 248 for the overseas producers registration. Next, I will talk about my content from the following four parts, as you can see. 1. General provisions, and 2. Registration conditions, and 3. Registration procedures, and 4. Registration management. Now, let's start the first part, general provisions. The new regulation 248 was issued on April 12, 2021 and will come into force on January 1, 2022. At the same time, the former Degree 145 will be abolished. Okay, and the new regulation is formulated in accordance with many provisions, such as the Food Safety Law and its implementation regulations. In addition, the General Administration of Customs of China, we call it GACC, is in charge of the registration and administration of overseas producers. Okay, in general, all overseas producers shall obtain the registration with GACC. So, the overseas producer here include all facilities engaged in production, processing, and storage of food, but except food additives and food-related products. Now let's move to the next part, the conditions for registration. Okay, the first, your country need pass our GACC's equivalent assessment and review about the food safety management system. Okay, when will GACC initiate the assessment and the review? There are 6 circumstances in the Degree 249. So if you want to know, you can focus on our video on the Degree 249. Okay, the second, you are established with approval by the competent authority. We call it the CA, and you are under oversight by your CA. Okay, the third, you shall have established effective food safety management system and defense system, and produce and export foods in your country or region legally. Okay, and ensure that foods exported to China conform with the relevant Chinese laws, regulations, and food safety standards. Okay, the last, the foods export to China shall apply with the relevant inspection and the quarantine requirements. For the registration methods, one is recommendation for the registration by the CA, and the other is application for registration by a producer. So, if you are one of the following 18 tabs, such as the stuffed pasta, dried fruits, seeds, nuts, and edible oil, and health foods, and so on, you shall be recommended for the registration to GACC by your CA. So, for other overseas producers, except for 18 tabs, you shall apply for registration by yourselves or by agents. After meeting the registration conditions and confirming your registration method, what are the procedures for the registration? Let's see the next page. Firstly, you should submit the registration application and prepare the relevant materials. Then submit the materials to GACC, and GACC determine to grant or deny your registration after evaluations and review. So this is a brief application process. For further information, if you want to know, you can contact me anytime. So, for the application materials, what do you need to prepare? Let's see the list. So, if you are a producer recommended by the CA, your CA shall submit the following materials to GACC. 1. A letter of recommendation, and 2. a list of recommended producers and the producer's application for registration, and 3. Some documents certifying identification, such as the business license approved by your CA, and 3. A statement that the producer recommended by the CA conform with the new regulation 248, and 5. Some reports of review conducted by your CA. So, if necessary, GACC may request the other materials such as the floor plans for factory and the processing flow chart, etc. Okay, so for a producer which apply for registration to GACC by yourself or by an entrusted agent, you shall submit the following materials to GACC. 1. Your application for registration, and 2. Also some documents certifying identification. So, and 3. A statement that you promise conform with the new regulation 248. And there are other requirements about the application materials. The first, your application shall include name of the producer, country origin, legal representative, and other required information. And the second, the application materials shall submitted in English or Chinese. And the third, if there is any other agreement about the relevant country origin and China on the registration method and application materials, this agreement shall be followed. Okay, the fourth, the overseas producers and the competent authorities shall be responsible for the truthfulness, completeness, and legality of the submitted materials. And the last but not least, GACC determines or adjusts your registration method and the application materials of overseas producers. After accepting the application from the CA or overseas producers, GACC or its entrusted institutions will set up the review teams to conduct evaluations and reviews. So there are some forms of the inspection: document review, video inspection, on-site inspection, and other forms and their combinations. So the new inspection methods are more flexible and applicable in the current situation, and in the competent authorities or the overseas producers shall assist in the evaluations and reviews. So, if you meet the requirements of the evaluation and review, GACC will register you and grant you the registration number in China and notify yourself or your CA in writing. And the validity period of the registration is 5 years. Importantly, you must mark the registration number in China or the registration number approved by your CA on the inner and outer packaging of food exported to China. And finally, GACC publishes the list of registered producers in a unified way. So instead, if you don't meet the requirements, GACC will deny your registration and notify yourself or your CA in writing. So above all, I believe everyone here agrees that rather than risking to fill registration and entry Chinese customers, it is better that we just comply with the relevant requirements from very start. So if you need, we can help you to get the registration, because we assist global companies to obtain the registration from GACC. In the last part, I will talk about the registration management. Firstly, GACC will conduct a re-evaluation, so you also can just log off after you get the registration in China. So if your registration information changed while your registration is valid, you shall apply for change to GACC and submit some materials. 1. A table exhibits the changed information and the original information. 2. Some supporting materials related to the changed information. And GACC changes your registration information if it deems can be changed. So if you change the production stat, legal representative, or your registration number in your country or region, you must reapply for registration, and your registration number in China will automatically become invalid. So if you want to renew your registration, you also shall apply to GACC within 3 to 6 months before your registration expires and submit the following materials to GACC. 1. An application for renewal of registration, and 2. A statement that you promise to continuously conform with the registration requirements. So if you meet the requirements, GACC will renew your registration and extend the validity period for 5 years. Next, the new Regulation 248 clarifies the mutual responsibilities of the CA, overseas producers, and GACC. So, if you are a competent authority, you shall do supervision over the registered producer and urge them to continuously meet the registration requirements. Okay, if you are an overseas producer, you shall do self-inspection. For GACC, it will supervise and examine the registration administration of overseas producers. Last but not least, there are some supplementary provisions for you. First, any non-compliance will cancel or revoke your registration. For example, if serious problems are found in the process of the entry inspection and quarantine, your registration may be revoked. Okay, in some cases, GACC will suspend the food import from a country or region. So during this time, GACC will not accept the application from the producer in the country or region. So it's necessary to understand Chinese laws on the facilities registration and access. Okay, the third, the competent authority in these regulations refers to government agencies in charge of the food safety and sanitation oversight of food producing facilities in the country or region. Okay, last but not least, GACC is responsible for the interpretation of the new Regulation 248. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can contact me and email us. So I hope today's webinar will help you. Bye.